movement in the early 1900s. He gathered millions of laymen and women, mainly businessmen and women, who wanted to give themselves as businessmen and women for the student volunteer movement that was raising up thousands and thousands of young people in the first 20 years of the 20th century. And here's what he wrote as he went around and talked to businessmen and businesswomen. Most men are not satisfied with the permanent output of their lives. Nothing can wholly satisfy the life of Christ within His followers except the adoption of Christ's purpose toward the world He came to redeem. Fame, pleasure, riches are but husks and ashes in contrast with the boundless and abiding joy of working with God for the fulfillment of His eternal plans. The men who are putting everything into Christ's undertaking are getting out of life its sweetest and most priceless rewards. How should you feel about the global purposes of Jesus Christ to be glorified among the nations? You should feel like this cause is the consummation of your meaning in life. Not the only meaning, and not the only activity. Probably time-wise, not the main activity. But consummating all other activities by your saying, "Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done among these peoples as it's done by the angels in heaven." That's my daily cry, oh God, and show me how I can invest my life in it. So what's the situation today with the nations? Stunning shifts are in the offing as God is gathering His elect from all the nations and all the peoples of the world, sending His church. Europe and America are no longer the center of gravity in this enterprise. Amen. Latin America, Africa, and Asia, it's all moving there. I'm here, pour my life out to spread a passion for the supremacy of God in this as well as everything else, for the joy of all peoples. And I hope we are not totally left behind. I don't think we will be. But by and large, Europe is dead as far as missions goes. And America is dying by consumerism and worldliness and materialism and entertainment. We are soft people. We do not embrace suffering readily. And that's the only way the gospel will reach the nations. I think South Korea proportionally is the most evangelical country in the world, and even non-proportionally sends more missionaries than any other country in the world. I really want you to become familiar with two websites. If you're sitting there saying, well, what steps could I take? How could I grow in this? Where could I find out anything about nations and about peoples? JoshuaProject.net is the most amazing website on this issue. JoshuaProject, no space, .net. And the next one is peoplegroups.org. So if you want to count them, if you want names of them, if you want percentages of evangelicals in them, if you want whether they're engaged or not, according to the Joshua Project, 1,569 peoples, ethno-linguistic peoples, are not yet engaged with a missionary. And 6,747 of these peoples are called least reached because they have less than 2% evangelicals among them. Brothers and sisters, this ought not to be so. Declare His glory among the nations is not a complex sentence. How should you feel? A passion for their salvation and thrilled that God rules over them, calls you to be emissaries to them, will one day gather from them people for Himself. You were made for this, Christian. You were made for this, Christian. Don't be sick. Don't let any aspect of your soul degenerate from lack of use. Last and briefer note. First note struck, nations. Last note struck, briefly, singing. Flying like a banner over this psalm about nations, flying like a banner over nations is sing. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord and bless His name. Get the point? That's the way the psalm begins. Why? It's about nations. It's about saying among the nations the Lord reigns. It's about declaring His glory among the nations. It's about spreading the news of His wondrous works. Why does it begin telling us and them, sing? And more specifically, why does it say, sing to the Lord, not about the Lord, and sing a new song, not just an old song? I like old songs. This is about new songs. Simple reason why it begins this way. You can't summon the nations to sing if you aren't singing. What are you going to do? Walk among them and say, I don't sing, but you should sing. That's not called authenticity. It won't work. Our job in missions is first to sing. Second half of verse 1, sing to the Lord, not just about the Lord, all the earth. To the Lord, a new song, verse 1, sing to the Lord a new song, to the Lord. There's something happening in our day. By our day, I mean the last 30 years of my life. History is very short, you know. Anything that's been going on for 30 years is a day, a short day. And you know as well as I do that around the world there is a worship awakening of unprecedented proportions in modern history. New songs written to the Lord. New intimacy, new engagement, new focuses on the nations. It was not hard for Mark, I'm sure, to find songs about the nations. They're everywhere. And many of them are to the Lord. I opened my old Wheaton College purchased RSV Bible yesterday afternoon because in it, on the back page, I listed all my favorite hymns back in the late 60s and early 70s. There were 33 of them. I went through and I counted the number that have any verse in them that is to the Lord and not about the Lord. And there were 9 out of 33. Here they are. The Lord's my shepherd. How great thou art. Great is thy faithfulness. Fairest Lord Jesus, we come, O Christ, to thee. Spirit of God, descend upon my heart. Be thou my vision, immortal, invisible, for all the saints. And all the rest, 24 of them, were about the Lord. And they're great. This is not a criticism. The Psalms mix it up all the time. To Him, about Him. To Him, about Him. To Him, about Him. And we mix it up at Bethlehem all the time. But when there is an awakening of a certain kind